a land torn between war and silence, one man stood taller than the rest. His name, General Ibrahim Thore. The camera finds him in uniform, medals shining, eyes cold and unreadable. To the world, he was a hero. But behind the salute, there was a secret no one dared to speak. Ibrahim Thore wasn't born to power. He fought for it. From the dust of forgotten battlefields, he rose through the ranks, sharp, disciplined, and dangerous. Soldiers followed his command with fear and respect. They called him the Iron General. He brought victories where others saw defeat, and soon, his shadow fell across the entire nation. When the government collapsed and the streets burned with chaos, people looked to one man to restore order. And Ibrahim Thore answered, not with words, but with control. The military seized power. The flag was raised, and the general became the president. Cameras captured his first speech, calm, confident, and full of promise. "We will rebuild this nation," he said. "We will rise again." But promises have a price. Behind the palace gates, something darker began to grow. Newspapers silenced, voices disappeared, and those who questioned the new order simply vanished. The man who once fought for freedom had become the very thing he stood against. His rule brought peace, but a peace written in fear. And yet the world watched, admiring his strength, ignoring the whispers, until the whispers became evidence, until the truth could no longer be buried. Reports surfaced: corruption, secret prisons, hidden accounts. Allies turned to enemies. The military that once crowned him began to doubt his crown. Inside his golden office, the general sat alone, the sound of distant protests echoing through the capital. For the first time in years, his eyes betrayed doubt. Power had given him everything, and taken everything away. The soldier who became a savior was now trapped inside the empire he built. And as the nation demanded justice, Ibrahim Thore faced the one battle he could never win, the battle against his own legacy. This is the story of a man who rose from the ashes of war, ruled through fear, and fell into silence. General Ibrahim Thore, the soldier who became a president, and the president who became a warning. As the sun set over the capital, the nation stood divided, half still loyal, half ready to rise. On the streets, the chants grew louder. "Justice! Freedom!" The same words Ibrahim Thore once shouted as a soldier, now echoed against him as a ruler. His closest allies fled the country. His ministers turned away. And the man who once commanded armies now faced the silence of his own conscience. He looked out the palace window, the same city he promised to protect, now burning under his rule. History doesn't forget men like him. It remembers them, not for their power, but for what they sacrificed to keep it. In the end, Ibrahim Thore was not defeated by his enemies. In a world where power is earned through blood and silence, one man stood at the center of it all. His name was General Ibrahim Thore, a soldier, a strategist, and a man whose name echoed across the deserts of Africa. The story begins in the shadow of war, a young soldier standing on the front lines, watching the horizon burn. He had nothing, no wealth, no name, no promise of tomorrow. But what he did have was will. Every battle carved his destiny. Every scar wrote a line in his story. His rise was not built on luck. It was built on discipline, fear, and a hunger for order in a broken land. Soldiers whispered his name long before the world ever heard it. The Iron General. He was the man who turned chaos into command, defeat into victory. And as the old regime crumbled, Ibrahim Thore became the only man powerful enough to rebuild what was left. When the people cried for peace, he gave them silence. When they begged for hope, he gave them order. The army moved under his command like a single mind, unstoppable, loyal, unquestioning. Soon the nation that once doubted him began to worship him. The government fell, the streets turned red, and in that silence, the man with the iron heart became the new president. Cameras captured his first address, calm, confident, and heavy with promise. "This nation will rise again," he said. Not through politics, but through strength. The world watched, fascinated. For the first time, a soldier ruled not by fear of bullets, but by the weight of his voice. Yet behind the walls of the Golden Palace, another war had begun. Whispers turned to rumors. Rumors turned to secrets. Journalists disappeared. Opponents went silent. What started as protection became control, and the man who once fought for freedom now stood against it. His power was absolute, but it came with a cost. Every night, the sound of protest echoed through the streets. Every morning, the silence grew heavier. Inside his office, surrounded by flags and portraits, Ibrahim Thore would stare at the city he once swore to protect. The same streets where he marched as a soldier now marched against him. Allies fled. Generals turned away. The throne he built from loyalty began to crack. And for the first time in years, he felt fear. The same fear he had once erased from the hearts of his men. As the sun set over the capital, the chants grew louder. Justice! Freedom! The same words he once shouted now rose against him. The man who ruled through silence now faced the noise of his own people. History is cruel to those who forget its lessons. It remembers not their victories, but their mistakes. Ibrahim Thore had become both, a symbol of power and a warning of its cost. In the final days, his guards no longer saluted. His palace felt empty, haunted by the echo of his own footsteps. Alone, he stood before the mirror, medals shining, uniform perfect. Yet the man staring back was no longer a hero.